Billy D, Cascade Hoop Talk. Join us on Twitter, Cascade Hoop Talk. Today we're thrilled to have Mitch Morken from Indiana Tech. He played all 4 years at Indiana Tech, scored more than 600 points, pulled down over 400 rebounds during his career. Mitch, a first-team all-conference player, was also, and you gotta love a guy who can get a stop, he was also named the WAC Defensive Player of the Year. Welcome, Mitch. Thanks for being on the show.
Oh, yeah, I appreciate you having me.
So you grew up in Niceville, Florida. Your senior year, you averaged 15.7 rebounds, 5 assists. You're a very efficient player. You were there on the Emerald Coast. You were the Runaway Daily News Large Schools Player of the Year. Talk about your high school career and growing up there in the Panhandle.
Oh, man, it was awesome. I tell you, for starters, it's nothing like Indiana in reference to weather. It's a lot more sunshine down that way. But, it was great. Got into high school there at Niceville High School. I was a 4-year varsity player, which was big. Getting that accomplishment as a freshman was big time, and got some minutes actually as a freshman. So that was definitely fun. But it was a great 4 years. Coach Stretchen, he was our coach for those 4 years, and we had some good years and some solid wins throughout those 4 years. So it was a good time.
At what point did you start thinking about playing college basketball?
Oh man, I tell you, I must have been in middle school. My dad, I grew up around basketball, man. He coached ever, since I was out the womb. I had a ball in my hand. He coached right there at Northwest Florida State College in Niceville, and they've always been a pretty solid JUCO team. So just being around basketball my whole life, I always had a passion for it and wanted to continue playing beyond high school. But I think it was probably about middle school. My dad he obviously loved basketball, but he didn't care what I played. He just wanted me to be active. But he was a solid ball player in his day. He actually got drafted to the Warriors, I want to say 82. But he was always that was never his plan. He just wanted the scholarship. He said that was always big for him. So when I heard that, I was like, man, I got to get a scholarship. So I want to say probably 7th, 8th grade. I really kind of got serious about it. High school, I played all the sports in middle school, but high school, I just decided, I'm gonna stick to basketball, and I'm try to perfect my craft there. And ever since then, it's always been basketball.
Why does it not surprise me that a coach's kid won the Defensive Player of the Year? It always seems like that. The guys who grew up whose dads coached always seem to be the best defensive players.
Yeah, and that's another thing he preached. He said, man, you can have a great game and not score 20. You can have a great game and not score 15. It don't putting points on the board is important, but where you get your real wins is down on that defensive end, and that's really where Coach Ted, that's where his mindset is that defensive end. You get those stops, you'll get you a couple wins.
So you graduate from high school. Talk about your decision to attend Indiana Tech. I understand there was some family connection in the area.
Yep. So I had some different looks coming out of high school, some different interests from some different places. But like you said, I've always had family ties up here in Indiana. So, I thought, let me go ahead and try to shoot a couple emails out with just some highlight tapes and some different information about myself. And I guess Indiana Tech coach Peckinpah, who was the coach here at the time, he got a hold of the film, and he was real interested in it, and he actually came down to Florida. I think he was visiting a buddy, so he squeezed me into his schedule and wanted to meet with me, and he ended up offering me full ride. So I said, you know what, man, let's try it. Been in Florida my whole life, got some family up in Indiana, so I'm ready for the new adventure, and it's been good, I'll tell you.
So you headed up there. And in your freshman year, you got some playing time. You played in 17 games, obviously limited minutes. You're a freshman, but you got some action. Talk about your initiation into NAIA basketball and what you learned.
Man, I tell you, I wasn't too familiar with it because, you coming out of high school and everyone's always preaching, NCAA ball, D1, D2. And I tell NAIA, I had no idea really how competitive NAIA ball is. You don't hear as much about it. I don't know if that's the real reason why you get that idea, but it was competitive coming in. I didn't really have that idea of NAIA ball in the back of my mind. And, being here freshman year, you definitely get a feel of that up tempo. Everything's a little faster paced. It's definitely different than high school ball. But it was challenging. I came in, I worked hard, tried to, do everything I could, do everything right, and then, just live with the results. So, it was different, but it was a good thing.
So you get through your freshman year, and then in your sophomore year, Ted Albert comes over. He had been assisting over at Cornerstone, takes over at head coach. What changes did you see as Coach Albert took over?
Coach Peck and Coach Ted, they definitely have different playing styles. Both great coaches, I tell you that. Definitely, have good basketball knowledge and know what they're doing. Both have had, tremendous success at this level. But I want to say the difference, for me, I guess, was when Coach Peckinpah was here, he was interested in more of I want to say like a JUCO style player. We had a lot of JUCO transfers come in. And I think Coach Ted, he's a lot more interested in your 4-year players. He wants you coming out of high school and spending 4 years and really developing as a college basketball player. So I guess just, the difference in new recruits and just, squeezing them into their ideal style of play is kind of the big difference between the two.
Mitch, it's going to be interesting, the NAIA going to one division, because at least in NAIA Division II, the programs that focused on bringing in guys for out of high school and 4-year players, those seem to be the programs that really had the most success at the national level.
Right. Yeah. I fully agree. Yeah. Yeah.
You look at Indiana Wesleyan or Cornerstone or Oregon Tech or College Idaho, they really focus on, bringing young men out of high school and bringing them in. And culture seems to be a huge, huge part of it, right?
Yep. Definitely. Definitely.
So that
I think Coach Ted really does, bank on that. So,
Mitch, in that sophomore year, you played 14 minutes a game. Then you were seeing a lot more of the court. You guys had a really good year. You went 17-3 in a conference, went to the national tournament. You won what turned out to be your only win in a national tournament in an overtime game against West Virginia Tech. Talk about that game.
Oh, it was a lot of fun. I mean, just the whole atmosphere of being out in South Dakota is big time. Playing in that arena, it's just a different feel. Playing a team, that we're not too familiar with, just trying to develop a little game plan. It was fun. I tell you, I mean, it was a competitive game. We brought it down to OT. We came out with a win. It was just, like you said, it was my first national tournament experience, and to come away with a win was a lot of fun. We had a good group of guys out there.
That's really a special feeling to walk off the court after that first round game and know you're playing again tomorrow, isn't it?
Oh yeah. It's different, like you said, I didn't get that chance the next 2 years. So I guess in a sense to get one of them out there is nice to know.
So your next year is you're in your junior year. One thing I noticed about Indiana Tech that year is outside of Dylan Fair and Max Huber, the starters seemed to change all the time. Was coach searching for a combination? Do you guys have injuries?
As a coach, from a player standpoint, I don't know exactly what his strategy was, but we did have, some different injuries going on. I think you said Max and Dylan were some more consistent guys on the floor. We had our starting point guard, Joel Winkowski. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He was our starting point guard, man. That kid was a stud, and he unfortunately he tore his ACL there I was early in the season. He's fighting for his eligibility back, but him going down was a big blow. So that was, I think kind of that's where my minutes kind of started kicking up a little bit, and then we had a kid, Logan Primerano, and he tore his ankle up pretty nasty, rolled it, and he was out for a little bit. And then I don't know, just some other little stuff here and there, but I guess just injury. It's tough, but it's college basketball. You got to overcome that stuff and continue playing. And we did. We ended up having ourselves a pretty good year, regardless of what all happened.
Yeah, you did. That injury bug, once it starts biting, boy, that can really start hurting. But you still, as you mentioned, you still went 16-4 in conference. And I wanted to talk to you about the conference tournament because Lords came to Fort Wayne. You beat Lords in the first round. Then you had to go on the road and played Madonna. And then that set up a trip to Cornerstone, Coach Albert's alma mater. And anybody who knows anything about Indiana Tech, Coach Albert's probably one of the top 5 most competitive guys in the NAI. How intense was the preparation for that game?
Man, Coach loves those moments, especially getting back to Cornerstone. Him and their coach, Coach E. Yeah. They have a real good relationship, and like you said, just competitive as all can be. And it was tough. I think he has a good idea of what Cornerstone sometimes wants to do after being there for so many years. But then their coach, he's kind of in the mind of Coach Ted also. He kind of, they grew up coaching together. So, they definitely have some schemes back and forth. We kind of know what they're doing sometimes. They know what we're doing. So it's different, you kind of got to strategize for the game a little differently and plan differently. So, it's always fun playing those guys. And they got a real competitive group over there. So.
And that was Sam Vanderslice senior year too.
Yep.
How'd you guys slow him down?
Oh man, it's tough slowing him down. I tell you. He's a big boy, and he could fill it up, if he did miss one down in the paint, it was likely that he was snatching it back up and putting it back in there. But we have some big guys. We had some big freshmen that year, who really stepped up and played well, and Josh Klein and Lucas Lehrman, and just with the combination of those two big boys, I think we presented some matchup problems, and hopefully rattled them a little bit. And we got the win, so that's all I could ask for.
Was that one of the biggest wins of your career there at Indiana Tech? What would you say is the biggest win?
I'd say so, yeah. When we had our little senior night and they asked us our favorite moment, I think I wrote down that conference tournament championship over at Cornerstone. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. You should be proud of that. Not only it was Coach Ted's alma mater, but they had a really good team as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And Coach loves it, man. You never see Coach Ted as excited when he gets a dub. Just like you said, he's so competitive. And if we're playing those guys and we can take them down, then it's always big time.
So Mitch, that brings us up to your senior year. There was a lot of expectations for the Warriors this year. You were actually picked 3rd in the conference, but you and I were talking before we started. You really kind of started out rough. You ran in the first game of the year. You had to play that Bethel team that, for whatever reason, boy, they hit the ground running. Did they surprise you? Were you surprised they were playing that well that early?
They've always had a strong program. Especially being in that Crossroads League is tough. So those guys coming into the season are always prepped and ready to go. So I don't know if I would say I was surprised, but they played good. They seemed like they were, already deep into the season with how well they were playing together, and they got some guys on their team that can really fill it up, can really get it going. So, it was tough coming out, but I think we kind of needed that little punch in the mouth maybe to, really for all our younger guys to get a feel of, how competitive this league actually is.
Well, after that game, you headed over to the Cornerstone Classic. And speaking of classics, you had that knockdown defensive slugfest with Morningside. So that was your second game of the year. It was just 1, 2, 3-point game all through the second half. You ended up falling by a point. I'd like your opinion, but it seemed to me like that knocked you guys on your heels a little bit, that game. It took you a few games to kind of gather yourselves.
Yeah, and you said about Bethel, they're tough, and Morningside, were they 1 at that point in the season?
Yeah,
I'm
trying to remember.
They were
I
one
think
of the top teams.
Yeah, they were either 1 or 2. They were in the top 3 all season. They were number 1 for quite a while. Yeah.
So with them being up there and playing that game, I think for me it wasn't really we're rattled. I think it was more of that's a pretty good ball club, and we can hang with them. We showed we can hang with some of the best teams in the nation. So I think for me it was more of kind of like regardless of what happened prior to that game, I was like, man, we can really play, as long as we're playing together and, we're all following coach's game plan. And I think things could turn out well for us. And the next 2 games after that, we actually took 2 more losses because we started out pretty rough.
You started out 0-4, and then going into Thanksgiving, you were 2-2 in WAC play. What was the mood of the team at that point?
You know, we never gave up hope. You know, we started out a little just like our junior year. I mean, we started out a little rough. You know, it was kind of up in the air at that point on how everyone was feeling. But you know, we always stayed the course. We always stayed positive. You know, and you know, after those first 4, we're like, man, we really got to turn things around. We really got to dial in. We really got to, you know, get going at practice here and see what we can do. Because, you know, me and just with those other 2 seniors, Max Huber and Dylan Good, you know, we definitely didn't want our senior season to go down like that. So, you know, we tried to flip a switch there, and I think like you said, we ended up going, 14-2 in the next 16 games or so.
Yeah, so after Thanksgiving break, you went 14-2, and you did that with a limited bench. I mean, you guys played tough guy Iron Man basketball. You know, what drove that 14-2 run? What was clicking that made that work?
I don't know if it was just us getting those first couple games under our belt. You know, that team chemistry built it up a little bit, or you know, it might have just been us tired of losing. Like, darn, we gotta do something about this. So I think, you know, we just preached it, man. That just play hard for me, man. Just play hard for me. I don't care if you miss a shot. Just play hard. And you know, I think just with that mindset in those first couple games not going our way, I think that kind of lit a spark under us and got us going there.
You know, Mitch, as I watched from here on the West Coast, I was surprised, and I'm wondering if, as a player, if you even pick up on this, but it seemed like because you had that rough start, I mean, you just couldn't break into the ranking. You know, Lourdes got in the rankings, Madonna got in the rankings. You guys just kept lagging behind, and you were winning the conference. Did you guys notice that too?
Yeah, I mean, we noticed, and you know, I think when with that being said, it's just Coach Ted, he wants a tough schedule, and you know, when you have a tough schedule like that, and then you do drop a couple ball games, you know, that doesn't reflect well on your overall ranking. So some of those games outside of conference, they didn't reflect well on our overall record. But once we got into conference play and we were winning games, you know, that's just kind of how it turned out.
Yeah.
And but I mean, those tough games that Coach did schedule, you know, it prepares us for those tough conference tournament games and national tournament games. So you know, I don't have any problems with it. I'd rather play a tough schedule and you know, work for what we have. But unfortunately, you know, that's just the way the dice rolled at the time, and you know, we dealt with it and moved on.
That's a good outlook. You know, in the middle of that 16-game run, at the end of January, Josh Klein went down. Did you feel were you thinking, oh man, this is over?
Oh man, I tell you, that was a big blow for us. That kid's a stud. I tell you, he I wouldn't say I never gave up on our guys. You know,
Sure.
everyone, you know, all those guys are solid. But just, you know, I really felt bad for him. I really, at the time when it happened and I heard the news of the exact injury, you know, I wasn't thinking too much of the team at the time. You know, I really felt bad for Josh. He's a good kid, you know,
Yeah.
works his butt off in the classroom, in the weight room, in the gym. You know, the last person in the world that should have happened to is Josh. So, you know, I really felt for him during that time because that is tough, you know. But yeah, I mean, it was a big blow for us. But you know, Lucas Lehrman, he's our other big boy, and he really stepped it up. You know, he took it as a challenge, and you know, he did it. He did his thing. He really got to working once his buddy Josh went down.
You know, you're known as a defensive player. Who's the toughest guy in the WAC to guard?
Oh, that's a good question. If I have to say, I would have to. I'm going with either. Can I give you two?
Yeah, absolutely.
And the unfortunate thing is these guys come from the same team. Dwight Burton from Madonna.
Yeah.
And his buddy Josh Reynolds. Those guys, man. Those guys can get it going, and if you're not anywhere near them, it's going down.
Yeah,
so those guys. I mean, they just present a bunch of matchup problems. You know, they're quick, fast, can dribble it, get to the rim, pull ups, three balls. You know, you name it. those guys got it in there, got it in them. So
Henry Spate's a load to guard too, isn't he?
Oh yeah. That's what
Yeah.
Those three guys, they're tough ball players, and Henry, he's got a little more size on him compared to the other two. So even with that just presents all kinds of problems. So I'd say those two guys over there are probably two of my toughest guards for sure.
Okay.
And then I add in another guy from Siena Heights. His name is slipping my mind right now. It's number 0. That kid can fill it up too. The WAC has some good ball players, so each team has a tough matchup, and just attacking that with best of my ability.
I got a question. One of the teams, you beat them both times, but boy, you struggled with them, was Rochester. You barely squeaked out. One was overtime, and I think the other one was a 1-point game or 1-possession game. What was it? Why were they such a tough matchup for you?
They've always been kind of a mystery team. They moved into our conference 2 or 3 years ago, and they've always, I want to say, when it's all said and done at the end of the tournament, the end of the regular season, they're kind of in the middle of the pack. But every time we play them, it's like, dude, these guys should be, number one. These guys they're good. And they just present a bunch of problems. They really space the floor well. They play together well. I want to say they had a bunch of seniors this year that's, kind of been close-knit playing with each other. So, they just play together really well. And every time we run into them, I don't know if we just match up well with those 5-on-5, or I don't have a specific answer, but those guys they have been tough, ever since I played them.
But they always give you everything you can handle. Hey, where's the toughest? Where's the toughest place to play in the WAC?
Toughest place, I would say Madonna. It's not a huge gym, so they always fill it up. They got a good little student base that shows up, and they'll let you have it. It's just a little, Madonna environment, coming in there. It's tough, like I said, the court's not very, the gym itself's not very big. So, everybody on the sidelines, you can hear everything going on. So I would probably say Madonna. Yeah.
Those small gyms are tough, aren't they?
Yeah. I don't know the exact component or reasoning behind it, but I guess that's one of them. But it's just always been a tough place to play ever since, I've been a freshman.
Well, this season you guys recovered. You won the regular season conference championship. You went into the conference tournament, and I know this is a game you'll probably never forget. You played Cornerstone again, and in the last 15 seconds of that game, Tyler Baker, he hit a couple of free throws to give him a lead, 10 seconds to go, and you guys had 3 shots at the other end. You had two looks at the bucket, and you missed a couple of free throws. How many times have you replayed that game in your mind?
Oh, man, hundreds. I tell you, especially right after it happened. That's all I could think about for the next week. But they're solid. Like I said before, they're a real solid team. And every time we run into them, it's a battle. Their guys lay it all on the line, and so do we. But it was tough. It was a real hard-fought game. We knew going into it that if they ended up losing, they were done. So they had everything to play for. So it was just tough. That last it always seems like that last 30 seconds between us and Cornerstone goes on for an hour.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. It's always like that. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if it's from, the coaching standpoint, since they came from the same place. But it was tough. Baker, I fouled him, and he knocked down his free throws. And then, like you said, we had a couple chances there at the end, and, we just couldn't execute and get it done at the time. But luckily we still had that national tournament chance. So, we weren't done yet. So, had to get over that hump and keep it moving.
How did that change your preparation for Sioux Falls? Did you feel as though you were more determined after falling in that game?
It didn't knock us down in any sense, because, like I said, they're a solid team. Every time we play them, they bring their A game, and, so do we. So I think it was pushed us. We didn't have that, we're playing bad now that we just lost one. We knew we were still playing good, and we were still rolling. And I think we still definitely had some of that confidence, a little bit of swagger going out to nationals. And, it didn't turn out in our favor, but still after that game, it definitely didn't deter us in any sense.
So you headed out to Sioux Falls, and you played Holy Cross. It was kind of a back and forth defensive battle. I'd like your opinion. I thought you guys held pretty good with them for about 30 minutes, but to me, as just an observer, it looked like you guys, you play with a short bench. It looked like you guys ran out of gas a little bit in the last 10 minutes. There was a stretch there that it seemed like you were a little bit fatigued there for a few minutes. You came back in the last 5 minutes, but I just like your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely did make that little push there in the end, regardless of what the score was with, 10, 15 minutes left. We weren't done. We weren't going to give it up. We weren't quit. That's kind of what we kept reminding ourselves, like, hey, man, I know we're down 15 or 10 or whatever it was, and, it's not going to be a one-possession game, get a stop, go score, get a stop, go score. So, but, it is tough fatigue-wise, I guess. Finish your conference play, and then you got, I don't know, what is it, about a week and a half, 2 weeks till you play that next game out at Nationals. So I mean, it is really big on staying in the gym and staying in shape and getting on the treadmill and running. So that coach did push that a lot, because I know from the year before, I think our bench was even shorter. So I know a couple of our guys might have been a little fatigued that junior year, so coach really tried to stress that this year. I don't want us getting out there and being tired. So, I mean, even though, that might have been the case or seemed like the case, I think that last 5 minutes kind of showed, we weren't done and we're not going to give up. But again, dice didn't roll in our favor.
Yeah, but it was a very, very good basketball game. You have nothing to hang your head about. So talk about maybe not the moment you knew it was over, but, that process of it sinking in that your college basketball career was over, and then you got the bus ride back to Fort Wayne, and talk about all that.
Man, it's it was sad. I tell you, just being around basketball my whole life, and just knowing, I got practice. At the time, you can almost take it for granted, and then until that final buzzer goes off, it's kind of like, wow, this is reality, and it's over. And I mean, I know it's been a while since, but it might still be sinking in. You're just used to that every year of getting back out there and preparing in the off season, and you don't have to do that anymore. So it's different. It was definitely a sad moment, but like I said, it was a great 4 years. I really enjoyed it. I never expected what I've gotten coming from Florida. Every guy up here took me in, coaches I've had took me in and, welcomed me with open arms. So it was tough, but, like I said, looking back on it, it was a good time.
So Mitch, you had a terrific career. You should be very proud of what you were able to accomplish. You're a big part of Indiana Tech basketball. What's next for you after Indiana Tech? Talk about your school.
I am a business administration major, concentration in sports management. So, with that route, I'm interested in coaching. Like I said, Pops, he was a coach for a long time, and I'm thinking about possibly going into a graduate assistant year, hopefully starting up some master's classes, and just kind of shadowing Coach Ted a little bit. Hopefully he'll take me under his wing and, teach me some more things. So, I'm gonna plan on doing that. And, if I enjoy it, then hopefully, continue on into coaching.
Hey, well, I want to wish you the best of luck in that. I think you'd be a great addition to the coaching world. I hope that works out for you.
Appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
I think you'd do very, very well at it. Well, Mitch,
Awesome.
I really appreciate you taking the time to come on and tell your story. I've really enjoyed talking to you, and thank you very much for coming on.
Oh yeah, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me. It was fun talking.